Hi there, Kim Carter here, and it's time for another episode of Babblicious, the series where I talk to you off script about things that I like. Today's episode marks the first in a little mini-series where I'm going to talk about other ASMR artists that I love. And I can't think of a better way to start than with the guy who started it all for me. So let's begin right at the top. Today's episode is Why I Love CardlinAudio. So you may recall, if you listened to the last episode of Babblicious where I talked about why I love ASMR roleplay and how I came upon it, that I have only been in this world since January. That's right, 2019 has been an interesting year for me so far. Certainly better than 2018. 2018 wasn't so great. Anyway, let's talk about happier things, shall we? Just to recap in case you didn't listen to that episode, which is fine, by the way, that what happened was that I was having a bad day, that day, fateful day in January, and I randomly decided to search YouTube for hurt comfort, just to see what would happen, to see what would come up. I had no idea what I was going to get. And what happened was that I got ASMR roleplay comfort videos. And I don't remember the actual search results if Cardlin was first in the list or not, but certainly he was very near the top. And the first audio I ever listened to of his, because I actually went back and checked because I was very curious. So the first audio of his I ever listened to was a little short one called Breathe. And it's actually kind of a different audio for him. It's very short. It's got some music behind it, and it's just him talking sort of directly to you. It's not a very narrative one. It's more not maybe sort of breaking the fourth wall a little bit and just kind of talking directly to the listener and doing all these beautiful affirmations, reminding you to breathe, telling you you're beautiful, and all these other wonderful things. And I was kind of amazed by that at first, and I thought, yeah, this guy's got a nice voice, and this is really nice to listen to, and this feels good. But clicking on that video is what sent me down the rabbit hole, because then that led me to the narrative videos, and that's where I really fell in love, because that started the whole journey down this genre of videos called boyfriend experience. And that's the artist talking directly to you as if you are their significant other. And Cardlin, he likes to put it that this is his bread and butter, and I can't say that I disagree. He is very, very good at what he does. His voice is very soothing, very loving, which is kind of strange when you think about it, but it really, really works. So he has all manner of comfort videos. So immediately I started checking out the ones that were for anxiety attacks or depression and things like that. And of course, the more videos I clicked on, the more things YouTube suggests, because that's how it works, right? And that only sent me further down the rabbit hole of narrative videos, because where I really fell in love was then some of the more fantastical narratives, because everyday stuff is great. It really is, but I would not be as in love with this art form as I am had I not stumbled upon some of the more fantastical and action-oriented ones. And what's strange about it is that it did take a little getting used to, and I know some of the reaction videos, or at least the big reaction video on whatever major channel that was, that people make a mistake sometimes when they listen to ASMR roleplay by listening to it in a group. Don't do that. It's not meant for a group, because when you're in a group, especially when it's live, in a room with other people, you're going to be looking at each other, you're going to be watching each other's reactions, and you're going to feel super awkward, and you're going to laugh. And, I get that what we're doing is a bit weird, but if you want the actual effect of it, you gotta listen to it on your own. Put on some headphones, get some solitude, and listen to it, and let yourself be taken away. Let yourself fall completely into it and really believe that you are the one who's being talked to. But that being said, it still even did take me a little bit of adjustment. As much as I loved it, it was so intense, and the feelings and reactions it caused in me were so intense that sometimes I had to pause. Sometimes I had to take a little break just to breathe. It sometimes makes my heart race still, but back then when I was just getting into it, it was crazy. I just needed to take a minute and be like, okay, wow. He really just said that thing that I've always wanted somebody to say to me. He just said it to me. Oh my God, I need a minute. Now I'm a bit more used to it, so I can listen usually without that intense reaction. The only time I usually get that level of a reaction is if it's my own script. Then that's super intense. And I've gotten commissions from other artists, and I should probably film myself reacting to me getting a commission, because that literally does make my heart pound. It really does. There's something intensely thrilling about these voices that you really admire, and suddenly hearing them say your words, it's intense. And it's exciting. And honestly, I don't know that I've ever really experienced anything quite like that before. It's a really cool feeling. So, of course, having discovered Cardlin, there are certainly other artists out there that YouTube was also suggesting to me. So, I guess the question that I want to answer or think about or marinate on or babble about here is, why did I stick so closely to Cardlin, at least at first? And why have I remained such a big fan and so loyal? Because I'm a patron of his. I try to catch all the streams he does. So why do I do all that? Why do I honestly think he is the best of the best? And I know that he doesn't necessarily think that. He's fond of saying that anybody can do this. Well, yes, anybody can. That doesn't mean that anybody will with your level of success and skill. That's all I'm saying. So, obviously, Cardlin has an incredibly soothing, beautiful voice. I love it. I really do. And it's interesting because when you try to shift to another voice, sometimes you have to retune your ear, get used to somebody else's phrasing and cadence and the different word choices that they might make, or the different ways that they say something, or a different accent, depending on who you're listening to. Not all of these people doing this are American, of course, nor should they be. But it can take a little bit for your ear to tune in to someone new. So, at least at the beginning, I was like, well, I just got used to Cardlin. Do I really want to switch to somebody else at this point? And when I did check out other people, I have to say that I still think he's a cut above the rest. And I think that as awesome as all the guest artists that showed up on his channel during his vacation were, it only reinforced to me that he is at the top of the game. I really think that he is. I don't think that I'm overstating that at all. I would say that what's different for me about Cardlin is that when I'm listening to him, I never think to myself, oh, he dropped out of character. Oh, he dropped the accent. Oh, I would have worded that differently. Oh, I've been taken out of the scene for a minute. I literally never think any of those things. I am 100% in it all the time, and he never lets it drop. He never makes those kinds of mistakes, and I think that the artistic choices he makes with the scripts that he gets are incredibly smart. And I say that as someone whose script that he's done, and he made some changes to it, and you know what? They were good changes. He really does know what he's doing, he knows what he wants, and he knows what will sound good, plus he knows what his audience wants. And that's only going to serve to make him more successful. What else do I like about Cardlin? His range. There are artists out there, and I will even talk about some of them, who have found a niche, and there's nothing wrong with that, with finding what you do well and sticking to it. Cardlin doesn't do that. Yes, he does lots of boyfriend experience, comfort type audios, because that's what he does, but he flippin' does it all. He does action, he does yandere, he does horror. I can't even think of what else. He does... He does basically any genre that's thrown at him, and he does it superbly. I can't name another artist that I think covers that range as well as he does, except perhaps Aussie Ben. I think that Ben actually does match him in terms of range and acting ability. But for me, Cardlin just still has that je ne sais quoi, and I definitely stick with him. I also think that in general, he is super connected to his community, which is super smart, and again is only going to serve to make him more successful and get him and keep him more subscribers and followers. And I did mention this on Twitter, but I know that Cardlin never wants to be recognized in public. He's really afraid of it, and that's totally fine, understandable. But if by some miracle I ever bumped into him, I would just say, I would want to tell him, you changed my life. Because he did. I can prove that to you categorically. I am happier. I have more friends now because I'm on Discord and have now made new friends all over the world. I am expressing my creativity. I was totally stuck on my writing. And with the exception of maybe the past 2 weeks, when I've been working really hard on my channel and on my server, I have been writing every day. I composed music for the first time since I've been in college. I don't have a lot of training in that area, but I gave it a go, and hey, I made my own theme song, which is actually a funny story because that was meant to be for Cardlin. And when I listened to it back, I'm like, gee, this sounds awfully Celtic, and Cardlin is not Celtic. He's Filipino. This is wrong. And then I realized it's not for Cardlin. It's for me. That's going to be my theme. And yet, in his own way, he still inspired it. I am happier. I laugh more. I feel less lonely, both from listening to audios and connections with my new friends. I see my therapist less. And my relationship with my husband has been greatly improved. And that's not even touching on all the things that he's inspired me to do with my own channel. So yes, I've been writing, but then I've also been collaborating. I've also been voice acting and editing and learning all these things that I didn't know how to do. I started my own server, even though I don't know what I'm doing, and I've only been on Discord since January. Luckily, the people on my server are very forgiving. And if all of that doesn't add up to being life-changing, I don't know what is. So I just think that he's amazing. He's super talented. He's super connected to his community, has his finger right on the pulse of what they want. I think that the sky is the limit for this guy. I really do. I'm not going to touch on anything personal here because obviously I don't really know the guy. Not really. I mean, I've had a few interactions with him, and in those interactions he has always been very down to earth, very funny, and very kind. That's basically all I can say about that. So, I think I'm going to try and do this for each artist that I talk about. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite audios of theirs. And for Cardlin, I'm actually going to do a couple categories here. Oh, I remember. I just wanted to mention that I knew I was well and truly screwed, so far down the rabbit hole, knew there was no coming back, when I listened to You Healed Me, which is a fantasy kind of medieval hurt comfort romance audio that he did. And I heard that and I knew I was just so screwed. I knew there was no going back. I was listening to it on headphones in bed and I was kind of twitching, vibrating with excitement. And my husband is just like, "Are you okay?" And my response was, "I'm so happy." Because I was just overjoyed. It was exactly what I wanted to hear. If you haven't listened to that one, please go do so. The title is misleading because I thought by the title that Cardlin was going to be the one injured and we were going to be taking care of him. It's actually the reverse. The listener is the one that's injured. So if you're looking for some great hurt comfort in a fantasy setting, definitely listen to it. And that audio is really interesting because he goes super low and gravelly and it It sounds amazing. I love it. So obviously that one is way up there on the list for me. So my absolute favorite of his, bar none, nothing else even comes close. In Good Hands, Part 1. And I told him that the first time I contacted him way back in January. I'm like, this is my favorite because it is action, hurt, comfort. And that is my jam. That is my absolute favorite. And when you listen to this audio, the setting is that the listener is in a war zone and has been captured by the enemy. And Gunnery Sergeant Cardlin comes to the rescue. And it just feels like you're in the middle of an action movie, and it's fantastic. But I'll tell you what else this audio has, and You Healed Me has it too. Because now that I know, basically I made up a term for this, there's a flip in it. If an audio has a vocal flip, there's a great chance I am going to love it. And what I mean by that is in Good Hands, there's a different tone that Cardlin uses for the listener versus talking to the other soldiers. When he's talking to the other soldiers, he's a lot gruffer, he's swearing a lot more. When he talks to the listener, it's a lot more gentle and comforting. And there is something about that, and I know it's not just me that loves a flip like that, where it's like, well, I talk to them like this, but I talk to you like this. It just makes the connection with the listener that much more intense and special. So any audio that has a flip like that is going to get me. And both In Good Hands and You Healed Me definitely both have that. Let's talk about straight up comfort audios because there are a lot of great ones. I'm going to say that one of the ones that is high up there for me, even though I usually don't listen to the whole thing anymore, is called It's Not Your Fault. And that's comfort for rape and sexual assault. And that I pick because the beginning of it has the listener having a nightmare and Cardlin wakes him up from it. And it is the best nightmare wake up he has ever done because he's done a lot of them because, comfort, boyfriend experience, that's his jam. And I eat them up because I used to suffer from nightmares and night terrors. I don't anymore, and I'll spend another Babblicious talking about what actually healed that for me. It actually wasn't Cardlin. It was something a few years ago. But anyway, he's done a lot of nightmare wake-ups. This one is the best. So if you just want to hear the nightmare wake up, listen to the first, 5 or so minutes of it, if that's all that you want to hear, because it's the best one. It's just so achingly tender and has all this beautiful shushing in it, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to pick another comfort one that I love, since for me, it's always about re-listenability, which isn't a word. It's a thing that I just made up. And I get excited when I find ones or I hear ones that I know I'm going to go back and listen to this time after time. So one of the ones that I have listened to again and again that is a straight up comfort audio, and this one I do pretty much listen to the whole thing, is called We'll Get Through This Together. And it's for PTSD. The listener has a flashback, and Cardlin has to talk them through it and then comfort them through the aftermath. And I just think it's brilliantly written, and it really shows off his range so well. It's really well done. That is an excellent, exquisite comfort audio. That is definitely up there as one of my favorites. Okay, so other categories, let's think. I actually didn't sit down and pick one for straight up romance. How odd, because I am very romantic. I love romance. Now I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head for you. For straight up romance, what would I pick? This is kind of an odd one, but since it has a little bit of comfort at the beginning of it, I do like Your Older Brother's Best Friend. That one is quite good. I like the one with I'm not remembering what this one is called. It's the one where Cardlin is a soldier returning from duty and he brings a puppy. That one is very, very sweet. I like that one a lot. So I guess I'll kind of stick with that. I'll have to go back later and think about, because clearly that's not what I'm going back and listening to, oddly enough, right? I'm going back and listening to the hurt, comfort, and the action, which is what I love. But I do certainly appreciate the romance as well. I get all blushy when I listen to it. It's adorable, trust me. Okay, so moving on. What else we got? My favorite sleepy time audio is... I don't remember what this one is called either. It's the gaming one that's basically like Can't Sleep Me Either. And that's the one where he is console gaming, not computer gaming. I guess I will pick a favorite yandere/creepy one. I actually do have a couple that I like. I like Dark Brew Parts 1 and 3. I'm not so big on Part 2 because that is where it gets like really dark, where he basically like hurts the listener, and I don't really like that. So I like Parts 1 and 3, and it's a fascinating yandere. I guess everybody's probably, well, maybe not everybody has heard it by now, so I won't spoil it. But it's yandere with a twist, so you should definitely check it out. I do like the first part of Cardlin's Collide as well. Again, it's got that little bit of action in it, so that makes me like it more than a straight-up yandere. And then the last one I'll mention that I like listening to the end of is, I believe it's called It's Not the Journey, It's Not the Destination, It's the Journey, or maybe it's swapped the other way around just to be different. And that's one where he's basically kidnapping the listener. And I actually really do like the end of that one, even though it does not have a happy ending if you're listening to it. So that's what I would pick for that category. And finally, I will pick and give a couple shout-outs to the spicy audios. My favorite Cardlin spice is Daddy's Little Girl is Misbehaving. Love it. It's all about the listener in that one, completely. There isn't intercourse in it. It is all about the listener's pleasure, and I think that plus the DDLG element is probably what makes me love it more than any of the others. Also going to give a little shout out there to Surprise for Daddy. A Surprise for Daddy is also very, very tasty. The Devil in Me, that's a recent one, and I really loved it. That was fantastic. And the last spice that I'll mention is I'm Here For You, which is just a beautiful audio, and when I describe this, you're going to know exactly why I love it. The plot is that the listener shows up unexpectedly at Cardlin's place, and they are super upset. They're crying, and he's comforting them. So of course I'm going to love that. And then it does turn to sex, because that's what the listener wants. And Cardlin is hesitant, makes sure that this is what she wants, and it is, and it's just beautiful. It is achingly tender, soft, gentle. It is gorgeous. So go listen to that one immediately. So those are some of my faves. Obviously, I'm very proud and thrilled with the one he did that I wrote, which is You Don't Need Him, which is comfort for family issues, particularly having issues with your father. Which is funny because when I sat down and wrote that, it was the first one I wrote for him, and I just thought, if I could have this perfect voice say anything to me, what would I want him to say? And that audio was my answer. So there you go. So lastly, I am going to touch on, for each artist, something that they do that makes me giggle, that makes me laugh. Not intentionally. Obviously, Cardlin's done lots of cute and funny ones. I particularly love the one he did recently with the cat ears. I thought that came out so adorably. It's just so cute. So what's something that he does unintentionally that makes me laugh? This isn't so much the case anymore, but I will say that when I was tuning my ear and getting used to listening to Cardlin, this was back when I was basically going through his entire catalog and listening to everything. I'd have to say the thing that made me giggle a little bit, that took a little getting used to, is the Cardlin hms and ms a lot. And he uses it very, very wisely most of the time. Like, it makes it sound more real when you add things like that in. It doesn't sound so much like you're reading off a script. But all I can say is that when I was first getting used to this format, that it stood out to me. And I was just like, why is he hmming and umming so much? And it just kind of sounded funny. So there you go. That is why I love CardlinAudio, and I'm pretty sure I always will. And I can't thank him enough for sending me along on this journey, because I literally would not be standing in front of this mic if it was not for him. So I don't know if you're ever going to listen to this, but if you did, Cardlin, thank you very much. So I think there are probably maybe 3 or 4 artists that I want to babble about, so just wait patiently for those, and I'll catch you next time.